How's everybody doing? I'm actually super excited today. We need to jump right into this. This is a project Buckin and I have been pondering what could I do with one of these for quite a while. Now, when he originally contacted me about a Homelite, it was one of those things, nobody really ported Homelites then, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there are people that did, but I'd never really seen it, a real nasty Homelite build. And, I remember sitting in this shop with a XL-76 on the floor going, I'm going to port that saw. I wonder. And, I'm glad I did it because I've had a lot of fun learning about that saw. Buckin's put a lot of miles on it. But let's be honest, friends. It's a nasty power saw, but it's only 57 cc's. Which is crazy that thing was pulling a 32-inch bar. Again, Buckin's going to tend to want larger saws. That Super Pro 70 I just did for him, it is 70 cc's, but it's a Mac. From the discussions I've had with him, Macs tend to need a little bit of a displacement advantage to cut with the more modern stuff. So even that saw, that's not going to be a big wood saw. It's just not. So we need to move up in displacement and start porting bigger saws for the West Coast boys there. This is one of my favorite saws, my 461. This thing's an animal. It's 77 cc's with the typical go fast moves I do. That thing's an animal. It's really too much saw for here. Generally what I cut can be anywhere from this to, but now I know, to build a saw for somebody on the West Coast, a faller, somebody that's pulling long bars, if it has too much power for me, it's probably just right for Buckin. So we discussed right away, as soon as he ran that saw, he's like, could you do it with a bigger saw? So I knew somewhere down the line that when we could fit it in, he asked me right away, can we do a bigger saw? And I said, sure. So he sent me this, and I unboxed this. This thing's incredible for compression. So today, what are we going to do? I need to put a timing wheel on this. You guys know me. It's all about the timing. Some may not agree, but that's my opinion. Timing tells me how a motor's going to run and what I can do with it. I don't know what I can do with this saw. I've never put a timing wheel on one. So I'm going to take the wrap bar off. This thing's going to be simple to time because it's a reed saw. Remember, reeds are going to be open plus or minus a few degrees from 180 degrees. Depending on your dwell, that space where the piston is not moving at top dead center and bottom dead center, you might lose 4 or 5 degrees of dwell. So let's say this intake's going to be open 174, 175 degrees. That's pretty good. The way to change that is to manipulate the reeds. That is something that is more of an art than a science. There is science behind it, but a fella's really gotta be in tune with what the reeds are doing. Anyhow, I am just like, I can't wait to time this thing. I'm gonna rip the full Rappy Dappy off. In fact, let's yak. So, okay, I gotta get my special Homelite tools. Give me a second here, folks. Okay, typical of Homelites, either the screws are completely missing or they are so tight that you can't get them out. Again, if you guys don't have one of these, I have several. It's a impact driver that you hit with a hammer. The question is it going to work? This is old school stuff. I learned to do this. Let's see if we bunches it loose. I learned to do this years ago. There we go. Working on old motorcycles, they'd have flat-headed screws on them. Okay, let's tear this thing down. Speaking of motorcycles, I'm going to back you guys up. How cool is it You know, I mentioned Indian Larry in an earlier video last week, I think. Pretty cool that so many of you emailed me. You had an Indian Larry story where you met him or you enjoyed his work. Indian Larry, I loved that man. I met him, I met him a couple times at Daytona Bike Week. I used to go there with my buddy. We would drive there. We drove there in a 76 Chevy C10 with holes in the floor and straight pipes. Let me tell you, that was a trip. Yeah, I met Larry. What a good fella. I was blessed to be able to talk to him one afternoon. Anyhow, pretty neat. So many of you like bikes, so do I. Maybe we'll do a bike on this channel in the future. Okay, so nice. The grommet's still in there. These tend to leak fuel in the side here. We'll probably redo this fuel line, this end of it. I noticed there's Tygon in there. Okay, so we're pulling that off. Now, we have to, I already had these loose the other day when we were comparing exhaust ports. So, I believe Jeff emailed me. Jeff Langston, hopefully I got that right. Jeff emailed me and said, hey, I think that's a 925 cylinder on your 922. Sounds good to me, buddy. I appreciate that. 925s, I've never seen one up here. 922s are what we have here. One thing that's super interesting about Homelite is just the different models that were available. Now again, if you guys watched me build the XL-76, these can be a little tricky to time. Okay, I'm going to get my 7/16, so I'm just going to grab it. Or 5/16 rather. These can be interesting to time because the exhaust port is on the right and the flywheel's on the left. So I might have to rig something up here so that we can see the timing. This is a beautiful saw. It's actually pretty cool. I'm just gonna grab this. It's actually pretty cool. I don't take it lightly when people send me a really cool old saw to grind away on. It's pretty neat. I know Buckin likes this saw, and I'm excited. We're just experimenting together, you know, having access to him. The man, I always mention to him, he's not a saw porter, but he sure talks like one. His knowledge of power saws, this is bothering me, by the way. I'm going to have to fix that. That's driving me nuts. His knowledge of power saws, it's pretty, he's in tune with what these things are doing. And getting feedback from him is just making me up my game. Okay, I'm going to take this nut off and then we'll attach the timing wheel. Let's see what we got here. Okay, I set this up on this vise, nice and sturdy. I don't want it to fall. And that should work for now, and then we can spin it around. And first thing we're going to do is measure the squish. Now, I have a feeling, so I'm going to use the big stuff. Okay, this is like regular plumbing solder. I'm going to use this stuff because, well, here, this end is already flattened out. What I often do is I'll whack it with a hammer. See if we can get that to, hey, I'll flatten it out with a hammer, and that way it's not as hard to check the squish. Okay, so this is at 68 thousandths. Okay. I'm going to turn the flywheel. This is probably going to have huge squish. Yes, okay. There you go. Lots of carbon in this saw on top of the piston. See that? Okay, what do we have here? wiping the... Well, it's not terrible. I'm looking for the smallest part. 35 thousandths is what this is saying. Is that 35 thousandths because there's a lot of carbon, or is that actually 35 thousandths? We don't know. If I open this thing up and there's a 10 or 15 thou layer of carbon on top of the piston, then I'm going to remeasure the squish, okay? We're just getting preliminaries, and I'm going to cut the end off. I'm going to measure it in a couple of spots, just to make sure. Again, I'm going to take this hammer, ready? I'm going to flatten this out a bit, because what ends up happening, if it's too thick, it's like just a bear to turn it over. Okay, I'm going to hook it towards me, same thing. There you go. Got to be careful turning the flywheel. Sometimes she gives away and you'll slice yourself pretty good. Story of my life. Okay. Okay, this side's cleaner. What do we have here? Well, this thing has good squish. I wonder if there's a base gasket in it. 33 thousandths. Well, look at that. So again, friends, this thing has huge compression. Is that because there's no base gasket? Or maybe this saw has a base gasket and it's just got good compression out of the box? Okay. 33 thousandths. Okay, I'm going to start a new page in the old timing book. Okay, I wrote it down. That squish number is really, really good. Okay, these are really easy to time because look, the exhaust port is right there. Now I got to mount my wheel, so we'll flip this thing around. These actually aren't too bad to work on. In my experience, the 76s are not that easy to port. These things have a lot of issues with heat. So be aware, and I've said this before, if you're going to port one of these, be ready, because this design is not inherently good for heat. The whole cylinder, okay, like look, this whole cylinder is wrapped in a cast aluminum handle. There's not a lot of fin area on these. It has a big muffler which stops the air from getting out. They run at a low RPM, so that, remember, the higher the RPM your saw runs at, the more air, okay, and I look at everything from airflow, the more air that comes off your fan, which is your flywheel. Think about that. These run at a low RPM. They don't have the best carburetors on them, although this carburetor is not governed. So now I'm wondering, has somebody been into this saw already? It doesn't look like it's been ported. I don't see any signs of grinding in this exhaust port, so it's definitely never been ported. Transfers look stock. This is a triple transfer saw, I can already notice. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do, and here's the hard part, I got to figure out a place to mount a pointer, and I think I'm going to go right here. So let's take one of these bolts. I'm going to use just a simple piece of copper wire again. I just did another video. Remember guys, I like to keep this stuff accessible and fun for everybody. I could get really fancy on this channel, but I don't know why. I ain't fancy, guys. I do things very simply. What you see, when you see those saws that I build run, and you like what I do, what I do, I'm showing you. This is me in my shop building saws. There's no trickery here. This is 100% legit. I just got to find a better spacer here. Actually, I'll just run this in the way it is. This is how I build saws. Is it fancy? No. Is there other ways? For sure there are, but it's like, this works for me. Try all the different ways for yourself and decide which way works for you. I don't argue porting theory at all. I always say that. I just don't do it. If your saw, at the end of the day, all the bench talk, timing talk, all the stuff I say or anybody else, do my saws cut wood? That's all that matters. No matter how you went about it. And if you went about it in a strange way, that's cool because that makes you unique, right? There's only so many ways. There's only so many ways to port a chainsaw. I mean, let's be honest here. Okay, enough ranting, Tin Man. Okay. Again, I'm going to bring you guys in here close. Okay, we talk about piston dwell, okay? Okay, I'm moving it. Look, see that spot where it stops? Look, I'm actually moving the crankshaft, okay? Just so you guys can see. Look, it's not moving. There's dwell there. Okay, pay attention to your dwell. It is important. Some saws have more dwell, some saws have less. Your dwell, I'm gonna turn the light off here. Sorry, friends. I believe it's Sunday today, and I'm in a Sunday kind of mood. Your dwell is important, so. Okay, we're gonna hold on to the clutch. I'm gonna spin this around. I want my top dead center pretty much right at top dead center. It's easier for you guys to see then what's going on. So, okay. Now the problem I found with these saws, when you take them down, there's nowhere to attach anything. They're hard to get a good attachment spot. So when I did those 76s, I was actually attaching a piece of wire to the stud on the cylinder. But the problem is with that, I found, is you have to retime it every time you take the cylinder off. Okay guys, so I just lined it up to top dead center. Okay. We're not zeroed yet though. I'm going to keep showing this again and again and again. Repetition, for me, when I learned my trade, repetition is what sinks things in for me. Okay, so again, we're going to take our piston stop. We're going to move the timing wheel. I'm going to put the piston stop through the spark plug hole. Okay. I'm going to put the piston stop through the spark plug hole. Okay, and I'm going to stop it on the piston stop. Just give me a second here, guys. I think I'm going to change my piston stop to a different one. Okay, sorry, little technical difficulties. I had to get the piston stop in there just right. Okay, we are at 58. Okay, 58 after top dead center on this side. And we are at 7. We're at 57 on this side. So we need about 57 and a half. Let's see if we can do that. 57 and a half. 57 and a half. Let's try it again. 57 and a half. 57 and a half. Okay, I'll bring you guys in a little closer so you guys can see. Bring you down. Right there, zoom you in. Okay, you guys see the deal? 57 and a half. 57 and a half. Okay, the perspective's a little off, but take my word for it. Okay, let's time our exhaust. Okay, in the direction that the piston travels. Okay, top dead center. Right there. Again, there's a little bit of dwell. Notice the piston does not move. Actually, I'm going to take that light out of there. Now, we shine the light. We shine the light through the exhaust, the spark plug hole. See what I'm doing here? Okay. Where does this thing open? Now, these, you pretty much got to look at them straight on. Okay, there's our light. I find with these, you got to look right through the port, and right when it cracks, that's where you time it. Okay. Bring you guys in closer here. Okay, I can't see any light through there, but you got to look up. See that? Okay, right right about there, okay? These don't do first ray of light very well, these Homelites with the big exhaust port. Now, I'm just gonna spin this thing around and let's look. It shouldn't move. Okay, 104 after top dead center is where this opens, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. Spin it all the way around. Top dead center. Let's put it back at 104, okay? Spin it back around. Is it the same or is it different? This is how you know that you're zeroed. Did it open? Okay, you see that little, there you go. See that little crack in there? So that's where it opens. 104. Now, there you go. See? Shunk, shunk. Okay, let's put it back to where it opens. Right there. Now again, we've moved it. So, I should be able to spin this around and it should say 104. And what does it say? 104. Okay, so we are zeroed. Okay, now let's do our transfers. And again, these Homelites, you can see the transfers right as rain through the exhaust port because the exhaust port's so giant in these. Okay, I'll get you guys a close up. See the exhaust port right through there, that black spot? Okay, now this has 3 of them. We're going to have to double check to make sure they all open at the same time because sometimes they don't. Okay, right about there. Spin this thing around. What do we got? 122. So 104 or 122 minus 104 is, okay, so we got 122. 122 minus 104 is 18 degrees of blowdown. Here's a shot through the spark plug hole. If you look through the top, through the spark plug hole, this is what you're going to be looking for. There's your transfers opening and closing. And in the next shot, it's through the exhaust port. So if you can't see through the spark plug hole, look through the exhaust port and that's what you'll see. Okay, well, that was interesting. Pretty much exactly where I thought it would be. As you guys can see, it's hard sometimes to see where the transfers open. If you don't have a scope, reconfirm with a ring. I'm probably going to ring this one because there's a lot of carbon in there. Our squish measurement is questionable. I bet you it's taller than 33 thousandths. It's probably more like 40. Exhaust 104 after top dead center. That's not terrible. That's typical of Homelite timing. Transfers 120 after top dead center. 16 degrees blowdown. Again, typical saws this era. 16 degrees blowdown. And again, there's no intake to time. So this is a big saw. We can push the numbers on this. We're going to. Now, I have to completely tear this saw down and inspect it. Being such an old power saw, I gotta make sure the bottom end looks good, bearings, all that stuff. You know, I'm gonna have to really check for play, and this saw's a runner, so I don't foresee too many issues. I shouldn't have said that because now you guys know the deal there. Okay, so I'm gonna have some deep thought about this power saw. What am I gonna do to it? What moves am I gonna use? The key to any of these saws is think about it. Don't just start going in there and grinding away. You really got to think about what makes these saws tick, and then how to manipulate what the factory did. Because that's all we're doing as porters. We're taking what the factory gave us and enhancing it, but we're doing what the factory can't do. Manufacturing tolerances are such that when you're running ragged edge of sanity numbers, like I like to, You couldn't do that on a mass-produced scale, and there is the question of longevity. You know, I think it's all in who runs the saw, how long a ported saw or a stock saw runs. That's my theory. I've been in and out of, you know, how many saws now. I think it's all in who owns it. But again, just an opinion. Okay, friends, so we're getting started here. This is exciting. I'm going to think about this. Bounce some ideas off of Buckin on where we want to go with this saw, and I'm probably going to rip it apart. I want to have a closer look at the inside. This looks typical of chrome cylinders. This one's in very, very good shape, so that's good. I do not hone chrome cylinders. Some people do. I don't. I typically, I'll give it a light scuff with Scotch Brite, and that's about it. So this one looks really, really good. All in all, I'm happy. This is a nice, not messed with original saw. So we're gonna mess with it. Anyhow, friends, I hope you got something out of this video. Again, it's all in the timing numbers for me. Timing is primary. Compression, port shapes, carburation, fueling, all that stuff, that's secondary to me. It's all in the timing numbers. I can only do with this saw what this design will allow me. So, you know, I can want to do whatever I want to it, but I can only do what this design will allow me. So, and again, if you're going to port these, remember, these run really, really, really hot. Ported, they're spicy. Be aware of that, and just remember that if you're going to port one of these, make sure you know what the deal is, because these are easy to pop when they're hot, turned up hot, I mean. So I don't recommend porting these as an entry-level builder. I don't. And again, that's just my opinion. I just like to tell you guys what I think. I think these are one of the more difficult saws to port. Not the physical porting of them, to keep them alive. These things run really hot. So, anyhow, friends, as always, thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later. See you guys again.